Just wanted to talk, that's all.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. The winter meetings are in progress, in full swing, and the rumor mill is cooking. And there are some chances that things could happen during the show. So if it does, stick around because I will be here to cover it. So let's begin first. Jonathan Lasagna, welcome back. Johnny Lasagna. It's been a long time since I said that. We'll talk more about him in a minute, but we also had a trade today. Yankees traded Carlos Narvaez, who's a pretty highly regarded defensive catcher. A little bit of pop. We saw him go oppo in spring training a couple of times to the Boston Red Sox for minor league pitcher Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. I'll be completely honest with you. I had never heard of Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. He is 21 years old, 5-5, 2.91 ERA. Just looking at the stats, 89 2/3 innings, 102 strikeouts. So clearly he has some swing and miss stuff. But the Yankees are also good at kind of finding these out-of-nowhere relief pitchers. So I'm not going to question that move. They don't always work out. Remember Addison Russ? But enough of these moves work out that I'm at least a little bit optimistic about it. Now, Carlos Narvaez is blocked by Wells and Trevino at the big league level, but he looked big league ready as a catcher defensively to me. Don't be surprised if you see him in the bigs, maybe playing against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium for the Red Sox next year. I think it's interesting that the Red Sox traded a big-time catching prospect as part of the deal for Garrett Crochet this afternoon, and then turned right around and went after catching depth. They were probably looking at different teams that have catching depth, and the Yankees have some solid depth in that department. And so while these two teams don't typically trade with each other, it was a time of need. So my guess is that the Yankees had identified a few arms within the Red Sox system that they said, hey, if they come knocking, these are the guys we're going to ask for. And this guy, Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, let's hope we learn his name a lot better going forward. But speaking of lottery ticket type of arms, that's what Jonathan Lasagna was when the Yankees picked him up. And I got a fresh tweet coming in. Nothing yet. Nothing important. Just Aiden. Shout out to Aiden Béchamp. Speaking of the lottery ticket, Jonathan Lasagna was a lottery ticket. And, he was one of these guys that had a incredibly lively arm, 100 miles an hour. The Yankees picked him up as a starter. You might remember when he first came to the Yankees, it was as a starter. Eventually, he found a lot more success in the bullpen. Incredible stuff, but he's such a little guy. And he throws so hard that he puts enormous amounts of strain on his body. So he's always having some kind of injury, and did not shock me that he needed Tommy John. He ended up getting the brace procedure, which will allow him to return a little bit quicker. They're saying he could be back as soon as late April. So if you get 5 months out of him, you have to hope that, as the year goes along, he gets stronger. He'll probably come back and be a little bit, just kicking the cobwebs off, like Scott Efros was when we brought him in this year. But hopefully there's enough of the season that he can, use that good stuff to his advantage and put it back together. We got a super chat here from Ryan. He says, do you see a 3-team deal to get Belly with Tucker? I had the same thought, but let me finish the comment here. It says, going to the Cubs because the Yankees don't have the prospect depth the Cubs do, or do you think the Yankees have enough to outbid the Cubs? Well, it's a creative way to look at it, and we'll talk more about this, but theoretically, we've seen them do this before with IKF. Remember, they really wanted IKF. The Twins got IKF, but the Twins also needed a lot of financial help because they wanted to sign, I believe it was Carlos Correa. And so the Yankees ate the Donaldson contract, which was a bad move. But the Yankees were able to flex their financial muscle in that way. Now, let's say the Cubs need to unload some money, right? Let's say they want to unload, Bellinger and a couple of other bad contracts. I'm not familiar with all the contracts that they have or would want to get rid of other than Bellinger. But if they want to dump some of that money, I could see a scenario where something like that plays out. But anyway, back to Jonathan Loáisiga. He puts an enormous amount of strain on that arm. But if he comes back healthy, hopefully, he will put it together in time to be a force out of the bullpen in the postseason. Now, let's talk a little bit about Alex Bregman, because Bryan Hoch tweeted today, and I spelled interest without a T, so I got to fix that real quick. That's going to bug me. Yankees' interest in Bryan Hoch, or in Alex Bregman, is for real, according to Bryan Hoch. A few of you may remember the blueprint video that I did, probably a month ago, right when the offseason began, where I listed Alex Bregman as the third baseman that I would personally go after. But that also included, it was Juan Soto and Bregman, basically, were my moves. Cameron Maben told me today that the Yankees will have no qualms about bringing in Alex Bregman after the Astros scandal. Bottom line is the Yankees want to win, and they feel embarrassed. Another person told me that they believe the Yankees view Soto leaving as more than just a baseball hit. They view it as a brand hit. So I put out this tweet this morning. It got a lot of attention. I didn't mean to get as much attention as I did with it. It was just kind of like, here's some things people are saying to me. But the impression I got from this certain conversation was that Hal Steinbrenner and his team view losing Juan Soto as an organizational loss. It's like if Manchester United lost one of their best players to Liverpool or whatever. It's a shot at, hey, you're not really the Yankees anymore. There's a richer team. It's one of those things that echoes through not only the baseball league, but the financial world, the sports world throughout the world, right? So I have a feeling that the Yankees will do whatever it takes this next season, more so than even after they finished 82-80, because that was a baseball thing. They want them losing Soto is worse than them finishing 82-80, right? Them losing Soto is the equivalent of when the Red Sox lost Babe Ruth in some ways, because the Red Sox were the kings of the hill at that point, and it turned the Yankees into the kings of the hill. The Yankees do not want the Mets to become the new kings of baseball for the next century or the next 10 years even. So they're going to do their best to recover from this move in a way that they build not only a good baseball team and a contender, but I'm hearing they want to build a juggernaut next year. And that means they might have to spend in some unexpected ways. And one of those things might be mending fences with Alex Bregman. Or trading Luis Gil to get Kyle Tucker. We'll talk more about him in a minute, but Alex Bregman is a terrific third baseman. He's not a second baseman who's playing third. He's not a kid going through growing pains or a converted catcher or some shit. He is a world champion, first-class third baseman who hits for contact, who hits for power, who's battle-tested. If you listen to Mike Francesa, and I love Mike Francesa, I'm still a big fan of Mike Francesa. He wants no part of Bregman. He was on the record today saying, enough of these right-handed hitters over 30. I disagree with that in this particular case. I think Bregman is a guy who, at least the next 4 or 5 years, is going to be really good. He'll fall off. I mean, everybody does. Arenado fell off. Goldschmidt fell off. DJ LeMahieu fell off. Father Time is undefeated. But if you can get 4 or 5 elite years of a third baseman and hurt one of your primary American League combatants, absolutely you got to do it. Absolutely. If he's willing to come here and if the Yankees are willing to overlook the scandal and all that stuff. He got off to a slow start this year, but by summer he had turned it around and never looked back. I could see this happening. I really could see Bregman happening. I've known Bryan Hoch for a while, and I've been following him for years, and he doesn't put a lot of BS out there. So we'll see how it shakes out. There's some other news here about Christian Walker that I want to talk about, but first I need some agua. This podcast brought to you by Aquafina. Not really. I just needed some agua. That reminds me. Whenever I say agua, I think of No Country for Old Men, where he's like, "I told you I ain't got no agua." Anyway, Christian Walker. The latest on Christian Walker comes from Joel Sherman, who says that the Yankees are cooling with their interest. And I buy this one too. Joel Sherman is another guy who his baseball acumen and his Yankee bona fides are unquestionable, in my opinion. He's among the best there is. Him and Buster Olney are in a league of their own in terms of covering the Yankees, in my opinion. Jack Curry also. But it makes more sense to me if you look at it in this context. If the Yankees are serious about adding Bregman, and that's why I went to Bregman first, you don't want to add another right-handed hitter. And this is where Francesa's point ties in. You don't want to get too right-handed again. That's a big mistake. The Yankees need lefties. But I'm okay with going one righty and a couple of lefties, okay? So you get Bregman for third base, right? And that cools you off on Walker. There's also some draft pick compensation attached that the Yankees aren't crazy about. And you turn your attention to Kyle Tucker and Cody Bellinger. And I still think there's room to get both of those guys, in addition to Max Fried, and possibly maybe even a bullpen arm like a Jeff Hoffman. Okay? I think it takes him out on Tanner Scott, but I can live with that, with Lasagna coming back and probably a couple of lottery tickets that'll work out. Hamilton's coming back, Dreamweaver last year. So there's some concern that, Walker, given his age, might have a DJ LeMahieu style, downhill, steep decline. I watched some clips of him today and I don't see it. There's this great website called Baseball Savant. And if you click on the dots on someone's spray chart, it'll show you all of their hits from that year. I'll just pull up Baseball Savant and pull up Christian Walker's stats. Now, we're not going to watch his highlights because I don't want to get a copyright thing, but I'll just show you what I was watching all day. So if you click on these dots here, you can watch that specific hit, that specific home run or whatever. This guy hits the ball real hard. He hits absolute nuclear bombs, right? He hits Stanton-level home runs. I'm talking 15, 20 rows deep. But, again, wrong side of 30, a little too far on the wrong side of 30. He's going to be 34 years old. And if you believe the rumors on Bregman, which I do, logically it would make sense not to get the second right-handed hitter, and that would be Christian Walker, who's also going to be expensive. Now, there's been some talk, and thanks to Doug Rao for bringing this to my attention, that the Rangers are interested in Christian Walker. I find that very interesting, too, if that happens soon. Let's just play this out. The Rangers signed Christian Walker. That frees them to trade Nathaniel Lowe, who is a really good contact hitter for first base, also pretty young and a lot cheaper than Bellinger. Pretty good athlete, too. So there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of dominoes and puzzle pieces that could come into effect. But if Walker goes to the Rangers, look for Nathaniel Lowe to be a Yankee. That's why I think you haven't seen the Bellinger thing happen. I think you're waiting for Walker is like that big domino that's going to lead to the rest of the offensive pieces, coming into play. Bellinger could go first, but I don't think he affects, not Bellinger. Bregman could go first, but I don't think he affects Walker or Bellinger that much. So, we'll see how it shakes out. Let's talk a little bit about Cody Bellinger. That saga continues. So we've talked about how he is kind of the perfect fit because he can play two positions that the Yankees need. I'm sure a lot of you are tired of me talking about this. We talked about it ad nauseum. I've been a Bellinger guy for a while. Apparently, the Yankees want the Cubs to eat some of the remaining 50-plus million. I think it's $57 million he's owed over the next couple of years. Although he does have an opt-out after the first season. So if he has a big year this year, you can envision him opting out, of his contract. He's got Scott Boras as his agent. So we'd be dealing with that again. But really, if he has a big year, you're really just committing for 1 year. So if the Yankees want, money eaten, it means they're maybe not totally confident that he's going to have a great year. He might have an average year and decide to stick with it. for one more year of the contract. So the Yankees want to hedge their bets a little bit, and they want to maybe pay 21 or 22 million, of the 27 that he's owed this year, right? So maybe that gives them an extra $5 million to bring back a Tommy Kahnle or to bring back a Tim Hill or something like that. And I'd like to see both of those guys come back. I asked Patrick Mooney, who's a professional baseball writer covering the Cubs. He is one of the co-hosts of Northside Territory. What would be the return for Cody Bellinger? What would they look for? And if you watch that podcast, you would know that he said basically an arm, a decent arm. Doesn't have to be a Clark Schmidt or a Luis Hill type, but maybe like a Will Warren or a Chase Hampton. Somebody from, the minor leagues who's, probably going to be serviceable. Remember, they also scouted the Yankees farm a lot prior to some previous trades that they made. They sent Mark Leiter to the Yankees. They got Jack Neely back. They got Hayden Wisniewski in another deal. So they've scoured the Yankees minor league system. So I would think that they're pretty familiar with, what options are there for them. So Cody Bellinger is just simply too good of a fit on the roster for the Yankees not to trade for him. I think you give the Cubs like a decent prospect. And even if they're unwilling to eat the money, this is not a place where you need to win on the margins financially. This is one of those things where it's a baseball move, where you eat a little bit of money and you say, hey, look, we're taking a gamble here, but you need the player. A couple of $1 million, not going to make a big difference to the Yankees, I promise, especially if you do what you're expected to do, which is go deep into the postseason. He can run. He can field. He makes contact. He's got postseason bona fides. His dad played for the Yankees. So he's familiar with New York. He's a legacy guy. There's always that potential for the monster season like he had 2 years ago. He had 47 home runs in 2019. I think that's probably an anomaly. Balls were juiced. But then again, the baseball seemed to vary year to year anyway. So maybe they'll be juiced one of the next 2 years and he'll go crazy again. So I think the Yankees got to get Bellinger, and I think they need to stop trying to coupon cut with that move. But let's talk about the move of the day as I get a little more agua. I ain't got no agua. Give me Kyle Tucker or give me death. Give me Kyle Tucker or give me death. I've seen a lot of people say that the Yankees should avoid trading for Kyle Tucker because it's another one-year rental. Been reports he wants to test free agency after the year. He has that right. But just because Juan Soto left doesn't mean that, Kyle Tucker will. And just because, Steve Cohen was willing to bid to the moon and back for Soto doesn't mean that they're going to have the same need for Kyle Tucker. I think once Kyle Tucker plays in Yankee Stadium for an extended period, he's never going to want to play anywhere else in his life. He's going to fall in love with those right field dimensions. His swing, if you look at his numbers, his spray chart, is built for Yankee Stadium. And hitting in front of Aaron Judge, or even behind Aaron Judge with Judge on base lot, he's going to either score a lot of runs and get a lot of good pitches to hit just like Juan Soto did, or he's going to have a chance to drive in a ton of runs with Judge on base. He's got elite plate vision. He can run when he's healthy. He had the shin issues. We talked about the fractured shin, but he's young. He's an outstanding base runner when healthy. I have to come back to someone with my hat in my hand and apologize because about a week ago, one of the commenters on this channel, and I don't know who it was, suggested that the Yankees trade for Kyle Tucker because it's the last year of his contract. And I said, no way. There's no way that the Astros will deal him, let alone to the Yankees, because they were trying to re-sign him. There had been some comments about how he should be an Astro for life, and you heard all sorts of stuff about an extension last year. I just figured it was a foregone conclusion that Kyle Tucker was coming back to the Astros. But if they're willing to deal him, if they're willing to trade him specifically to the Yankees, there is very little that I would not trade. Jason Dominguez is pretty much the only place I draw the line, and that might be because I'm a huge Dominguez fanboy. But Luis Hill, I think you got to make that move. And then if you really want to go super evil empire, if you're trading away a piece of your rotation, Then you go out and you sign Corbin Burns to replace him. Yeah, you don't want to hear that. That's maybe too evil, Empire. That's too expensive, maybe. But I've seen weirder things. I mean, we all remember the 2008 offseason when it was like, could the Yankees actually sign CC Sabathia and AJ Burnett? And then they did. And then everybody presumed that they were out on Mark Teixeira, but then they went ahead and offered Mark Teixeira a big contract and he came. Never say never with the Yankees. Remember when Alex Rodriguez walked through the door? Never say never. So I think that you could get him for Luis Gil and probably a couple of prospects. Everson Pereira is somebody I would float out there if I were Cashman. I think he would do enormous damage to that Crawford box because he is a right-handed pull hitter. He's got good power. He's coming back from an elbow injury. He's not a great defender. And, you could stick him in left field and, he might be a really good player for you down the line. Roderick Arias, somebody who could potentially replace Altuve in a couple of years. The Yankees, as I mentioned, have some catching depth. So give me Kyle Tucker or give me depth. Or depth. Depth. Give me depth too, but give me Kyle Tucker or give me depth. All right, so let's take some comments and some voicemails. First voicemail is about Kyle Tucker.
Hey, Derek. This is William from Florida. So it seems like everybody is into the Kyle Tucker rumors, and a lot of Yankee fans in the Yankee. I'm kind of scared because it kind of reminds me of, I don't know, a guy we had last year named Juan Soto. We only had him for 1 year, and we gave up the Cubs.
We gave up a lot. You're cutting out a little bit, so I'm going to cut you off. But it's like, they say, I'm a fan of Yellowstone, right? And this season sucks, by the way. But you get kicked off the horse, you get right back on, or you don't ride again. I think that you gotta take that risk for a player of his caliber. I don't see Steve Cohen going to the heights that he went for Soto again for another outfielder who's older. I think the Yankees will be able to sign Kyle Tucker. I think once he gets a taste of hitting in Yankee Stadium, my goodness, he is going to love it. He's going to absolutely love it.
Hey, Derek. Joe from Jersey. You did your show the other day too early, so I didn't make the cutoff. But how about doing a show on did we or did we not, this was good that we didn't get. We dodged the bullet, okay? Now I heard he's demanding, he wanted a free suite for life, or forever he's a Yankee. Are you kidding me? Derek Jeter don't have a suite. We dodged a bullet with this contract. All hitters slump. So if he ever slumps, which he will, what do we have? Good luck, you Met fans, because right field and Citi Field, 15 feet deeper and a lot larger. That means less home runs for him and more ground for him to try to catch a ball. We dodged a bullet. Who does this guy?
Yeah, so it goes on for a little while like that. Look, I still stand by that Juan Soto's a terrific player, but I said immediately after it happened that I was not going to be one of those fans who's heartbroken because I felt like it was an opportunity to address the roster in a number of different areas. And I stand by that. I really think that it was a chance for the Yankees to address some things that they've needed to address. Just by losing Juan Soto, you're already better at two outfield positions. Dominguez is going to be a better center fielder than Judge. He's a natural center fielder. I know he was bad in left, but he was a great center fielder in the minor leagues. And Judge is an elite right fielder, okay? If you go get Bellinger or Kyle Tucker or Alex Bregman, that further builds your defense. And we've got more pitching now. I don't know that they would have signed Max Fried if they got Juan Soto. So I think it was an opportunity more so than a devastating loss.
Yeah. Steve calling from Farmington, Maine. I've got an idea for third base. It's not an unbelievable superstar, But, if you remember the Yankees of the 90s, and they didn't always have to have a superstar at every position, but they needed a solid fielder and a guy who could get the bat on the ball. And I'm talking about our old buddy, Gio Urshela. I'm a fan of his, so my perspective is a little bit slanted here. But what do you think of that one? Thanks again for the show.
That's a good question. We've had a few people message or call about Gio Urshela. I'm going to pull up his StatCast numbers because, as you can see, he's still elite in a lot of different areas. The expected batting average, the barreling the ball in the sweet spot. Actually, not barrel, but hitting the ball in the sweet spot. Barrel percentage is actually down. Squaring it up. Whiff percentage, strikeout percentage. He still won't draw a walk to save his life. But he does play a good third base. They played him a little bit at short after he got moved. Great glove. I've always liked him. But if you look at the numbers, on base percentage 286, OPS 647. I just don't know that he can get around on a good major league fastball anymore. You look at the bat speed; it's in the 7th percentile. Maybe if it was a utility role or something, but I wouldn't want to make him our everyday third baseman. But that's where we're at right now. Supposedly a Bregman deal is imminent. So if something happens, I will be back. Everybody, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. We just got over 45,200 subscribers, so it's been a good week for the podcast. We've had several podcasts over 20,000 views this week. Part of the Foul Territory Network, so go follow all of those podcasts, including Foul Territory. And once again, stay tuned because I'll be back if anything happens. We'll see you next time.
Ball game over.
If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and give us a subscribe. It helps other Yankees fans find the channel. We're also on all your favorite podcast platforms and social media. Join the community, have some fun. We're here after every game. This is Pinstripe Territory.